Hello, everyone. What is going on? Welcome to episode 199 of the Leon Gray podcast. Your host, as always, Leon, back with a brand new podcast. Today, we're going to talk about um, previous things that I have missed, and today's is going to be a little bit different because I'm sure a lot of you know, or some of you may know, where have I been and where have I gone. So these are good questions. What's been happening in my world since it's been now over, I would say about over 2 months since I've done any recordings of a podcast. And you know what? That those are legitimate questions. Where have I gone? Where have I been? Have I been in the middle of the Siberian forest? Have I escaped the Matrix? Well, I'll tell you that I haven't been to the Siberian forest, but I will tell you that I went ahead and experienced a brand new country. And that right there is France, Paris, France. And I got a lot to talk about in today's episode is my trip to France and things I'm going to be talking about, which I've had in mind, and a lot of certain things I've definitely wanted to consider bringing up on this episode, and other miscellaneous I wanted to bring towards the end. So that's going to be very interesting. So to begin with the podcast, I want to just go out and just begin right here that it's been many weeks since I've done a recording, and good thing I'm coming just back into recording what I wanted to say. It's been many weeks, but they just put it out this way. The trip was overall great, but didn't want to go out and start this podcast just like that and end it with just saying great. But the way I attended for this trip, I wanted to get out, to do something a little bit different than want want to. Now instead of just talking about normally about the technology, which I know later on I will talk about the technology, and I know I wanted to catch up with things I wanted to catch up, which of course, if you guys want to see what I've been up to, you guys still can follow me up on Substack, which on Substack I pretty much write on a daily basis. Um, but yeah, this is something I've been testing the waters more and more. So if you want to follow me up, it's going to be leonlegray.substack.com, and I'll have the link below on the show notes so you guys can follow me there. And Substack is one of the platforms that's pretty much supports writers and journalists, anyone that wants to get their creative freedoms out there. And Substack tends to be one that works really well. Originally, I wanted to start doing my newsletters through ConvertKit or the other one, which is Chimpmail. Then finding out that Chimpmail wasn't as free as I thought, but I may have talked about this in the past about Chimpmail, which Chimpmail I decided to back off on Chimpmail because for me, I'm someone that talks about very much into diverse ideas, especially in the tech world. There's a lot of diversity in that industry, and so and that's where I wanted to get in and talk more about uh, the diversity of where the industry is going. Now it's cool. I like where things are going as far as having such diverse ideas and talk about different things in the podcast. But knowing that what I know, I that's where I decided I'm going to go ahead and get into the topic in space about my podcast, which I figured this will be very, very good. And to start out with the topic on hand too, I will tell you one thing is Computex happened a few weeks ago, and there are certain things I wanted to mention about Computex, and this was during the time when I was in the during my small trip over in Spain for about 2 days, and that's when I came back to France. Now, starting out first and foremost, Paris, France. So the way it started out is I left Atlanta, Georgia, on the 25th, then landed on over in Paris, France, the next day on the 26th that morning. And boy, there was a lot to talk about, and it's really cool to see all that happening there because, for one, um, when I landed in Paris, the one thing I've noticed in Paris is that it's so busy. I mean, it's a big airport, but it isn't really as huge like Atlanta. Atlanta is wide, in, wide and bigger compared to Charles de Gaulle. And there are terminals, and you can just pretty much basically fly all over you want, and which is really fascinating when you are down in Paris. And one of the things I can tell you, and my observation with Paris is like once you land, um, you tend to find out that you are pretty much have access to the train, uh, right from the airport into onto any city, uh, any town or city in Paris, which is amazing, very reliable, uh, in comparison to my home state here in Georgia. And let me tell you something. The train system beats Atlanta all the way. It's nothing. It really isn't what it seems. And especially even though the United States is huge, it's fallen far behind, especially with transportation goes. So when you go downstairs in the lower level, one of the things I've noticed when you're going down, you go downstairs, you see a big line of people and waiting to get to the tickets where they're trying to go, especially in wherever destination they're trying to get into the city. And you order your ticket, and the cool good thing is um, you have the option to pay either cash or tapless pay through your card, which they let you do that, which is absolutely cool to see that option right there. Now, where I see about that is that once you go for it, then you uh, go right through the gate, and then you have to go through um, go onto the lower level, and then you take the train from there too, which is super cool to see that the transit and the where you're going is absolutely fascinating because the train, which is the B train, so the B line going from the Charles de Gaulle Airport, and it took a while right there too because the train I would say from Charles de Gaulle Airport, which the airport was up north, it took about an hour and a half to get over to my friend's place. And so to me, that was um, it was something else because you look around and you see all these old cities. You see um, amazing small towns right when you are passing by through the trains, which I like the train system, um, and I thought it was clean. And you hear a lot of stuff online, especially portraying Paris as very dirty. While that's true, and not to dismiss all the comments on that, I think there are some certain things that are true. You just gotta be careful who you're listening to online because if you just take what everybody says, you're not going to get or expect to experience your own experience. And what I will say that what is true, so for me, what was true throughout the entire experience was the fact that yes, there are um, parts of the towns that have graffiti here and there. Um, and I will say that even when I was taking photos of the trip, doing taking videos, and when I was on the train, I was trying to take some shots of parts of the cities where there's graffiti. But very honestly, if I can, if I could put it this way, I'm not trying to go out and paint Paris in a very bad light. And if you want to know my full take on it, if I had to compare New York City compared to Paris, first and foremost, when I um, took the train, and I went all the way to 42nd Street, I can tell you one thing: the train system, while it's reliable up in New York, it's very dirty. The subway station, and I haven't visited New York, New Jersey in a very long time. And I'll tell you one thing is I'm not even crazy to go back to New York or New Jersey at any point of time. And and because the last I've checked, especially with people posting stuff like online, TikTok, it's way worse than Paris. And I'll tell you right there. Now, Paris, on the other hand, when I went and entered in the subway system or the trains, um, or in Paris, it's actually cleaner in comparison to the U.S. counterpart, especially the train system in New York City. And that's where I've noticed is that this is quite a big difference. Um, and yes, I notice there's smells and things like that, but you don't get to smell the stench when you get into the city center. And I that's what I've noticed as well. And I've spoken to someone on Twitch. She's a French streamer, and she said to me, "It's like uh, when you get to Paris, the stench is really horrid." And I was like, "Okay, got it. Thanks for the heads up." and But it is quite different, quite different when you go over and you experience a brand new city. And that's one thing about this trip. After being out for 3 weeks, yeah, and 3 weeks is quite of a long trip too. I haven't been out for that long. For one, I can tell you is that the where I've stayed, uh, it was pretty much in a town called Rural Mauson, or Rural Mauson. That's small town. I've loved I love the atmosphere of the town. I love the place I stayed over for the 3 weeks. What's cool about that was that the castle, they call it a castle, but to me, I call it Napoleon's estate. To me, a castle is supposed to be a lot bigger. Now, this right there, this was a very small, I would say a small mansion, not a castle, but um, um, basically this is where the place where Napoleon and Josephine's castle, where they used to reside. It was not too far away where my friend lives, which was really sweet. Cool that the castle was just nearby, and I didn't get to go over there until week 2 of the vacation. So I and I liked the go inside that castle. But anyways, there are parts of Paris, and then parts of France I have not visited ever. I haven't done it in this trip because, for one, it's I had to be careful because when you're going out in the city, you're not going to go out and spend so much. And because when you're taking the transit, everything or everywhere is money. So one thing I can say is for future people traveling, um, it can be quite expensive. It's not to say that not to say that this is the only place that's expensive. You can go to New York City, and you could definitely spend a lot and may not know this until you check your bank statement. But right here, well, I'll tell you one thing is the buses. Buses are fairly cheap to go from route A to from point A to B. It's great. The train station, it is great. Now, if you're going into another city, um, on train is fairly cheap as well. Now, if you're going to the city center, like in Paris, going to La France or the Grand Arc, um, you'll be expecting to pay what, €4. Um, from where I was staying in Ruelle Malmaison, it cost one way was like €4 and some change. So that's what I remembered, and that's one thing about traveling is it's best to be prepared and best to have enough saved up as well. Now, if anything, I definitely recommend anybody to go for a brokerage or a check-in. Now, if you live in America, definitely have like a Schwab or Fidelity. Both works great if you want to avoid any fees uh, when you're basically going back and forth, because the transactional fees, if you're using like a regular American bank, I would never ever use a regular bank account from an American bank. They will charge you small, a little fees that you will not notice until you check your statement. So just be aware. I would prefer, if you do travel, use like a brokerage um, for travel, and make sure to have a card with you at all times, because most of these machines already accept contactless pay, which is wonderful, because that's what I did use when I left Charles de Gaulle Airport from the airport to my friend's town, and that worked out amazing. And throughout that trip, it was just nothing but it was. I have to say though, even though I felt like it was nothing but, even though I keep saying it's nothing but marvelous and fantastic, but the feeling that you get, especially, it just brings a lot of wonders, especially when all that wonders comes a lot of memories that becomes very unforgettable. Because even though they live, the French live pretty well, even though things are not perfect, which I understand. Um, I've noticed a lot of things that the French overlook, and when it comes to the living, sure, the living in Paris can be quite expensive. Depends on which part, which part where you go, or where you stay, of course. Now, if you plan on or intend on going and living in the city, ooh, best of luck to you, because that's not going to be fun. I hear what I've seen and here, the living in the city center is way overpriced. But if you do live anywhere else, I would say just live somewhere that's probably much more economic, because I know you can still get pretty much get by living in Paris for sure. I mean, if you think about it, uh, New York beats Paris now, because if you were to find a place in New York, you better forget about living in New York. Because Paris, on the other hand, the food, ooh, the food was amazing. For one, you don't feel like you've been filled up. That's one of the things I've noticed is, of course, everybody talks about food. The food is great in compared to United States. United States is very heavily processed, and boy, I enjoyed uh, I enjoyed it, and it's one of the satisfactions I feel. If you even come back and have the feeling of going in this in a country like France, and knowing that you've had one of the best foods ever, and that's really cool. Even to step in, and to a country like that and just feel like, man, yeah, you're having really good food in compared to United States. Even like you try to go out and find good food, and all the food that you see in the United States, it's very also it's no, I can't say it's commercialized. What's the word? It's very processed. It's many of where I live is a lot of franchisees, lots of franchisees from every single spot, and you cannot go to a good restaurant if you were to go to, say, let's say the city, and even though the city has, let's say, if you were to go to a very good restaurant, you have to go to like a state capital. Like I live 35 miles away from Atlanta. Now, I'm not a fan of Atlanta uh, or any big city. It's like, how hard is it for someone like myself living in the country, and then even that same processed food will kill you over time. And that's why I when I went to Paris, even for that time, it did, however, change my perception, especially well, living in the United States. It makes me wonder how the United States doesn't make it seem so wonderful. Look, I'm sure people will get kind of will be pissed with that statement what I just said, saying that how much United States is not so wonderful. Because here's the thing: even though United States paints itself into this broad stroke, say, and here the American people saying that we are top shit, we got everything. Why do I have to go anywhere else? We have Chinese food, we have Mexican, we have this and that, and why would I ever go out to any other place? This is the part of me that says this is why I want to explore. And that's what makes me a little upset, especially when it comes to um, even even for myself. I don't like even the statement or the putting myself in a bubble or having to name myself being an American. And for me, it's one of the strangest things, even to call myself an American. And I feel, even though I put America in a very bad lights, a lot of the times, it's just like, man, the French definitely have it right when it comes to the quality, the food, but the living. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's so much better. You do not see a lot of homeless people in compared to the United States. Now, when things are getting tough in the United States, it makes you wonder, wow, we're far from beyond perfect. Where have we gone? Where have we gone? And and this is why I don't sympathize people defending the stuff that goes on in the United States. And look, and I'm not going to get started with politics because clearly not in this podcast, because this is not a platform I will ever speak about upon politics, because I know election year is coming up, and that's something I will not want to bring any presence or bring any mention on this. From this podcast has solely to do with basically my travel experience, what I've gone through, and that's where for me, Paris does it right. I felt more at home traveling overseas than I did in my own country in the United States. It may sound sad, but I felt a lot more home uh, being in Europe than I did being in the United States. It's sad, but it's true. And then while I will continue talking about Paris and throughout the rest of the podcast, definitely wanted to switch things a little bit more, as I am going to go over a little bit on the topic, which the other part of me, since now on this trip, while I did spend time the rest of the 3 weeks in Paris, France, and so on too. Spend my 3 weeks over in my friend's place. I went over to um, over on an Indian restaurant for his birthday, and that's where I've enjoyed my time over there. Because the funny part about the whole thing was, our birthdays are one day apart from each other. His was the 28th, mine was on the 29th of May. So, as you know, this was really cool, having our birthdays a date apart, and we got to celebrate both of our birthdays, and we got to do activities, fun games with a lot with me. It was me, my friend Savan, and along with his friends that he's known for a long time. It was really fascinating to really it was just not just fascinating but sweet at the same time to especially being around people that he's known for since middle school. What he's told me, great. It was just a great thing too, to enjoy the fun, enjoy the laughs, just enjoy the group. Pretty much, it was a very diverse group of people, from basically from different people, talking to with different people from all walks of life, basically. And that's one thing I definitely enjoy because uh, I will tell you one thing is that France is not just some monolingual culture. It's you got people from all over Europe, people that do live in France, coming from all over. It's very fascinating to see that. And so, but I want to go in parts out from talking about just Paris, France in general, and move on to so the destination I went over for a small time was San Sebastian. I way I want the way I went over there is I went to San Sebastian for a concert. I loved the Rammstein concert, which was back on the last month on June 5th, which that's when the concert started. When they played that night, and unfortunately didn't get to see the online friend, because things were the pretty much the band ended the show late. It was great, um, but the unfortunate part was I didn't get to see that friend of mine. But the good side about this, the flip side was, I did went ahead and befriended a new person when I talked to the Spanish dude in line, which was super cool. I made a new friend in Spain, and so today we still talk. Um, we do care. I do carry conversations with him now and then. It's not every day, but I'm definitely gonna continue contacting these people and continue conversation. And this is one thing I liked about travel is that if when you go out to different places, you see different people, you discuss whatever you discuss on, and at that point, you just make um, a new contacts, and you discover different people and all different shape shapes and news, and just basically new things into their own lives, which it's awesome. And also, I remember I've talked to the Spaniards, three Spaniards guys when I was in line. Cool story, and they've um, they've got went ahead and talked to me, and I've went ahead and talked to them, so I got to know them a little bit, and it was quite fascinating to talk to them. They've went ahead and they wanted to know me, where I was from, and I gave them my story. And overall, Spain in general, it was really cool. I liked the vibe, the atmosphere of Spain. It oh gosh, one thing I could tell you with Spain is, I was sweating a lot in Spain, and I was pretty much living by the beach. Um, Basically, I was like near the beaches. It was called Playa de la uh, Concha. I'll go ahead and put all the information down below so you see where I was at mostly. Basically, it was a beach nearby San Sebastian. beach is incredible. Which I would tell you that one, I'm glad I didn't get to take a lot of my things over at San Sebastian because it would have been a lot of it would have been back breaking and a lot of things to carry with me during this trip. It was mostly my two bags, basically two small bags, but thankfully I didn't bring the suitcase with San Sebastian since I was just going to be there for a short amount of time in Spain, and I did stay in a hostel. Which I'll tell you one thing is that the hostels are very inexpensive, and yeah, you can pretty much get away. Um, it depends on where you book, of course, um, because I've seen prices that varies from each hostel and hotel. It varies by each place where you go. So not all of them are going to be cheap. So be aware of that as well when you're traveling to a place like Spain or any part of, at least. So take note of that as well. If you're traveling to San Sebastian, uh, just be careful where you go. But yeah, so anyways, one thing I can tell you is that the buses, the train transits, um, it'll take you wherever you need to go. And the day after the concert, I went over on a train, and I'll tell you, the train experience was just incredible. And I may go out and say this out on the limb is that, oh, the train systems are fascinating. Just going from point A to point B is just cool because knowing that when you are trying to travel, um, it's just much more reliant than what I've seen in the United States. United States, the transit system, not so much. It's like where I mean, of course, it depends on where you go. Like Atlanta, however, the trains in comparison, like you go into a train system, like let's see, the MARTA train system, it's terrible. There because you can go around Atlanta, but you cannot go pretty much anywhere. Not much. There's not much to do outside of Atlanta, and the train system doesn't even go that far out in the country. Um, Quite sad to say, and and that's why I just don't look too fondly on in America because I feel that America has tons and tons of potential. I don't get me wrong, but why have we gone this far behind? And that's where I have plenty of issues. And I even expressed my feelings about this with a friend of mine. And no, make no mistake as well. When you are traveling around, especially in the city, and especially at night, one thing I'll tell you one thing is when you're traveling at night, just be careful because the buses and the buses and the rail system doesn't last for many hours. There's a certain time period that they do close. They do shut down around after midnight. So if you don't get into the destination where you're trying to go, well, too late for you too, because you're gonna have to wait for a taxi to take you back where you need to go. So that's quite the unfortunate part right there too. Um, but overall, I did sightsee, experience San Sebastian, and I got to try out the tapas before leaving and heading take before taking the bus back to Paris. I will say that the buses are really reliable. In fact, much more reliable than any Greyhound system I ever used in the United States. In fact, Greyhound, just saying right there, but the Greyhound, I remember one. It was one time 1 year ago. I tried a Greyhound. I did not like it one bit. While it did take me back home, I just did not like where it was the delay took so long, like 45 minutes of delay, and then the buses in in San Sebastian, basically the countries are small compared to the United States. The United States is massive, and everybody knows it is just massive. And one of the things I can tell you is that I don't know why, but that's is where made me mad last year. Where why there it had to have a 45-minute delay. What was the issue behind all this? The bus station, the buses in comparison, no delays whatsoever. And I went through and I made it um, back to Paris 11 hours later. Oh, it was fine. It was a breeze. I'll put it this way too. But anyways, I'm not gonna go on into my podcast on like so many side notes and things I've done and my personal things. I will tell you that I definitely had a wild experience in San Sebastian, especially the food, the tapas. Uh, it was great. Yeah, everything was great. I would have to go back to Spain and uh, go back for a much longer period because San Sebastian was much more short. Uh, it was shorter experience than it was in Paris. I would have loved to, but I'm gonna be saving up now till next year to get more of the Spanish feeling, the feeling of being around the Spaniards and how the atmosphere is like to the vibe and atmosphere basically. And I just need a lot more time. To me, there's not much to comment on it because I've only been there for only 2 days, and basically not much more that I can pretty much put into it too. Now, if I wanted to go to take take a trip over to Bilbao, um, Madrid, Barcelona, or whichever place in Spain, then I will make more time and I love to do more video or travel contents right there. The content that I do post, which is up on Instagram. Now, the one I have to say, I'm just thinking about this twice about posting stuff on Instagram. As much as I have to say, Instagram has changed for the worse, and I'm actually thinking twice what things I should put up on Instagram. Part of me is like, look, Instagram, maybe all fun and all, but I really don't trust putting any content out to begin with, especially for those that think that they want they're there to follow me just because of my content or if they ever cared about things what I do. To me, I'm really considering or reevaluating what I post up online because, for one, I know there's so many alternatives I can do with Instagram. I mean, Instagram is Meta or it, Instagram is part of Facebook after all. So why am I gonna rely on a platform like that? It's ridiculous. So if there's any alternatives to Instagram, it would be great. In fact, if I find any, I will let anyone know on Twitter, Blue Sky, or Substack Notes uh, down the road. Now, part of this episode, I want to get into the good part, which the good part is Computex. As I've talked about computers in the past, during this trip, I've actually had a newsletter on pause. What I wanted to further talk about Computex. This is quite interesting because you got so many news about computers as now in the middle of the year. Computex, which takes place in Taipei, Taiwan. Something I would love to go to Taiwan one day, make a trip out of it, and see where I can get myself through, especially get my experience on Taipei. Taipei is quite of an interesting country to travel. So, anyways, I've always known where things were going in the space and the tech space, actually, I should say. Um, and everybody's paying a lot more attention. If it wasn't the yesteryears with Tesla, then it has to be Microsoft or Nvidia. Nvidia in the past month has been doing well in the stock market, and I've had this conversation over a month ago. Yeah, this was over a month and a half ago, with a friend of mine, and with what his prediction is that Intel may end up coming back, and if not, we'll end up doing better. Now, we're always seeing the race with AMD versus Intel. That's been the oldest rivalry fight for how long I've known. It's been a rivalry fight with CPUs for a long, long time, and it makes no difference with any other CPU processing fight going on. Now, NVIDIA, it's one of the I would say uh, oldest graphics card. It's been around since the early '90s, and you know what? The way things are looking in the market, especially with Nvidia, I remember Nvidia was actually the highest in the market, in the stock market, where it's going, because Nvidia isn't just focusing on graphics cards. It's focusing on robotics and AI and all the trendy stuff everybody wants to follow up on. And while this is great as well, you look at AMD, they're looking to follow suit as well, especially following up on AI within their processor, within their motherboards, and they want to um, focus, have that major focus on everywhere else. AMD is no different, too, and I like AMD. In fact, I have an AMD motherboard right here with this computer I'm using. It works great. The performance has been doing really swell. I do enjoy it. And even with the news with AMD, which I'm reading right here on MSN News, Nvidia shares rebound Tuesday, halting a 3-day skit that had surprised many investors and wiped away more than 400 billion in market value. Early last week, Nvidia overtook Microsoft as Wall Street's most valuable public company. Then it fell 13% over 3 days, its worst such stretch since 2022. Because Nvidia has become so massive in size, the movements for its stock carry extra weight on the S&P 500 and other indexes. And so to stop right there, this right here will explain a lot about AMD. And AMD are not AMD, but Nvidia as a company will continue to become very successful. And this is one thing I notice a lot of people. And when people have had the worst um, drop share, um, basically the drop share bottom down with Tesla, a lot of people, and especially someone that I know close to, had shares with Tesla, and everybody decided to um, get out and decided to go ahead and jump camp into the Nvidia camp, AMD, Intel, or any other tech stock that's out there. And this is where a lot of people said, you know what, we can't just put our eggs in one basket. It's just not the way we're going to go through our portfolio. And this is, for one, it's not very smart. If you are an investor putting your eggs in one basket, that's literally quite stupid. And it's not something I will ever give stock advices to anybody. But if you're focusing on a figurehead like Elon Musk, doing and focusing on what he does best is go on into Twitter, or AKA X right now, and he's just posting stupid, shitty memes, whatever, you know, and and people are definitely still carry and buying the lie on Elon Musk's promise. And look, first of all, the guy is simply a figurehead. And if you look at Tesla has not been very serious on AI. AI, for one, I do think it's quite of a gimmick, because you still got AI while every company is trying to develop its own AI systems. AI isn't something that you can just go ahead and hold on to, carry on with you. No, I just don't think it's going to be perfect out of the package. And there's going to be times where AI will continue to be improved time over time over time. Nobody's going to know how well it'll be, especially every AI system will work very differently. And for me, and my surprise, Google, where people, I remember when you've had people that try to test around Google Gemini. Gemini is far behind. And you would figure that Google, as a big company, will be up in the forefronts with so many of the tech industry following up on that. What's up with that? And you know that Google doesn't hold its prestige uh, any longer, and this is where it'll start to fall off behind, and a lot of people are going to start questioning. Well, this is not something I'll ever hold on to Google, and the idea of holding on to Google, it's not realistic whatsoever. Look, they got the Google has the Google Pixel phones. I'll give them that. Still has good things and good positive things to say about that too. I own the Google Pixel 8 Pro. Best phone I've ever had. Probably it will be my last phone I'll ever own in my lifetime because phones are ridiculously expensive. I will not own another smartphone after this. Probably something maybe low end or mid tier phone, but again, not too crazy about that too. And right now, Nvidia and other companies are going to look into saying, you know what, the desktop world will be rocking, uh, larger and stronger than ever. And so that's where I see with Computex. I mean, Computex have had a lot of good things, especially with Seagate. Seagate's, for me, the biggest thing right now, it's I would say a lot of consumers are looking for something a lot faster, which is NVMe SSDs. Those are very big right now, especially a lot of people are looking into storage units. Someone I have remember I had this conversation, which NVMe, first of all, it is a lot faster. It is a flash storage that's much more faster, actually 4 times or if not 8 times faster than hard drive disk. Ones with the mechanical disk. And a lot of people can see that, and a lot of people want something that's fast and something that can get them going. And and what do you call it? M.2, excuse me. So yeah, so basically, NVMe or M.2 units are just going to be the way to go in the future. A lot of people are going to jump on that space, especially if you look at Seagate, Western Digital. Now, last time I checked, this was many months ago. Now, I don't know what it is like right now, especially with the market. Last I've checked on Seagate, that was many weeks ago. Seagate, it was $97 in stock exchange, but now let me just check right here as I'm searching Seagate stock price. Okay, and so right now it is actually really doing really well, performing up to $103.43. So I'll say this again, $103.43 performing, and it went up today 1.36%. Seagate Technology Holdings PLC on Nasdaq. Now, when I checked this up, I would say over a month ago, that was big. I still think that having some tech stocks in your portfolio will be not a bad choice. Besides diversifying other things, but you don't always have to take this from me. Always do your research before putting any stock. But if you can afford it, you can afford it. Or if you want to put small dividends down, you sure can. But that's up to you, of course, if you want to invest on that too. But I wouldn't ignore it because there's still going to be a lot of big players, a lot of people that are trying to experiment with AI, graphics computations, and people in that space are doing mining, GPU mining, and still to this day too. And you almost wonder. why GPUs are still expensive because, well, during the pandemic really showed how much it it showed where GPUs can go. Because back when during the pandemic, a lot of people had time in their hands, and people purchased GPUs left and right everywhere else. And if you couldn't buy the GPUs firsthand, you have to end up buying the GPUs secondhand, like places like on eBay. And that was the reason why GPUs are so expensive as it is today. Now, if you were to look into any other pricing such as power supplies, now uh, it can go up or it can go down depending. And I would definitely watch out for good power supplies and wait till the prices go down. I've had conversations with one of my longtime buddies that live in France, and he even gave me advice, especially stuff I didn't know about pricing on certain things like motherboards, GPUs, um, many ITX cases, all that sort of good stuff too. I think it'd be really wonderful to have a small mini computer, and I've told him that too. Something I will invest down the road if if my finances are really good and clear till now to then. If I get a mini ITX uh, unit, and what I like about it, it is lightweight, and good thing is that you can just take it with you, or if you want to play it out on the go to a friend's place, you sure can, and just install your game and enjoy a nice LAN party too. Now, Computex did had a lot of things happening too. Like again, you got ARM AI applications on Computex. This was something that there's a lot of people still reporting to us until today. ARM AI, which I'm still going over it with a lot of the AIs and still trying to educate myself what all this is about as well. Um, and then Forbes, even I'm going over to Forbes right now. Forbes is talking about Intel. I mean, Intel Lunar Lake changes everything about x86. So a, a lot to go through. And this was an article that came out last week and released by Ansel Sag. Now, I haven't even gone through what's been going on to their camp. I think Intel will make a comeback. We'll see where this goes. AMD is still staying stronger than ever, and so that's not going to go away. I know that I and many other people are still going to go and come over to AMD. Now, one of the things I could say is that Intel. The reason why people still stick with Intel is for one is performance. And I have to agree, Intel is not bad when it comes down to performance. That's one of the key initial things why I say Intel isn't really bad. In fact, Intel had served good purposes back then when actually they were really good in the mobile space. And I've seen a lot of computers running on mobile, especially on laptops. I've seen Intel all over the place from Apple laptops to Windows based laptops from Dell's, uh, Lenovo's, HP, and so on. And you see a lot of companies that had used Intels in the past. Now I'm seeing a lot more AMD mobile chipsets on most recent hardware now. And now Intel, it's going to take a lot of time, and this is where I see that. Where I'm saying is that Intel, well, it'll be a long time coming until they can make a good comeback. I don't think it'll come back right away, but it will make a comeback at some point. Because if things go on Intel's way, oh, we will have to find out. Right now, last I've checked, AMD has done pretty good. One thing I don't like is AMD's Instagram stories. If you checked AMD last month, let's say that it was pretty questionable. If you want to risk your eyes, um, if you want to risk your eyes, go ahead and do so. But just be careful what you look at. I just think that AMD really screwed up when they've started to go very much non non technology. What's something I'll put is very plain and clear. And for me, that was really questionable when they started to um, make pride posts on that too, because I know there was people that said, "How about stick with technology?" And I have to agree. This was not a good thing on it too. But again, this is not going to hurt AMD um, for any reason whatsoever. I think a lot of people have made huge complaints, and I do think that stuff. What the AMD was very, what can I put it? Questionable, very questionable indeed. But AMD is still rocking it, no matter how you put it, however you want to put it. AMD is still kicking it up to this day too. First of all, AMD AI in high performance computing, and I haven't seen um, the full video with Dr. Lisa Su. Again, she's all over the place, and she's uh, going through from everything with keynotes and new reveals. That's always what AMD does best, of course, at this point. But so, anyways, this is something I would check out. And if you are interested with AMD, AMD has a lot of good hardware coming forward, upcoming months ahead too. To end on a good note right here on this episode, there is a lot to talk about with Computex uh, and everything that's been going on. There's a lot to be said. But today was mostly about my experiences with the trip. I wanted to come back and focus a little bit more on the time I've had with traveling outside the United States. Give you my take and my small experiences. I will say that traveling did change me and shaped me quite a bit, especially when I went out and traveling and seeing what's it like uh, in a different country. But also, I wanted to see a friend I haven't seen for over 5 years, and the last I've seen him was when I made the visit to Berlin. That's where he used to live, and now currently staying in France, working as an English teacher. And I have to say that I'm happy to see him. I was happy to see him, and I do hope that next year, whatever happens next year, I can follow up suit and make a quick visit and check up on him and see how he's doing. Because honestly, it's I always feel that anytime I've come back and travel, it's always an amazing feeling to get out and do something fresh in my life because you go up and even though sure you can go out into New York, Montana, California, Tennessee, Florida, and whatever state you're gonna go to, it doesn't uh, it doesn't feel any different when you go out to Europe. I mean, sure, you're going to go state by state, but it doesn't have that same feeling as far as when you're going taking a trip to Europe, Asia, Africa, or whatever continent that you plan on going. I do think that it does richen such an amazing experience long term, and it brings out a lot of new memories for you too. And then having to be in the United States and having to be around and you get very disgruntled about where you're at all the time, and especially with a lot of the issues that goes on. And I don't think it's something I want to stay around and stick around. And I've actually had been joked around by family members that said, "Hey, you plan on getting your on your French citizenship?" I said, "Ah, that's funny," but who knows? Life can change itself around, and that's where I it could always happen. I can get a French citizenship or German or Spanish, whichever that come across right there. I'd say sure, maybe one of these days it can happen, but that's something. One thing that is for certain is just because people said that there's always an opportunity in the United States, it doesn't mean that you have to stick around, right? There's always opportunities everywhere. There's always jobs everywhere. And that's one thing a lot of people don't understand or doesn't want to open up their view of the world. And they are still stuck in their own small world, thinking that the United States is their own world to them. And I say no. You got so much you can see and view, and now having to be stuck at one place forever. And that's something I do not see myself for forever. And when I was there, I've seen a company that was actually not too far away from a friend's place called Trend Micro. Very interesting. I went and walked past that small little company not too far away. And I said, man, you got so much going on in France that I had no idea. And there was a game company, believe it or not, that was made and developed in Paris. This was a company called Micro, Microroid, Microroid that did the Siberia games, and I actually loved and enjoyed Siberia, which is a adventure puzzle game, and that's something I do want to revisit again. Siberia, and then I can play through Siberia 2, 3, and then the fourth game. And so far, I would like to see what goes on in my life, because life is too short to be hanging around, not doing what you can as well in your life. Staying in one place is not it, because this is why you've got to make a plan for your life. And I know that not everybody is going to be happy to stay. And I've noticed I myself, in the other hand, I sure can tell you that I'm not always going to be happy to stay in one place forever. And there was a good question that came up on Instagram, and this is a place I've went into Instagram, and this is something I've always viewed on the content dating without borders. You know what? It was very very interesting coming a from them, and one of the things they said about this.
Hey everyone, a question for you today is, do you feel like you don't belong to the culture that you're born into? So for me personally, I was born in Russia. I came to Canada when I was 12 years old and genuinely don't feel like I belong to either culture. Like I really genuinely struggle to figure out where I'm supposed to be. And maybe that's a current struggle for so many people out there, maybe the people that follow me even more, because we have so many options, right? But also we often just don't feel like we fit into the culture that we're born into. So if that sounds like you, tell me, what is something about your culture that doesn't quite fit in with your personality? And if so, did you move to another country and how did that work out for you? Or are you still struggling to figure out where you belong?
And this right there answered my questions, and this right here just hit me, because sometimes I don't even feel that I belong here in the United States, because even though I was raised by two Cuban parents, but and I was born in the United States, but somehow I always feel misplaced, and I always feel that I don't belong in the culture here. And I know there's always going to be a side of me that says that even though I was born here, I just don't feel that American. I when I went to France and Spain, I felt it felt very different, and it did hit me right there that when she said that, and also in that caption says, "Do you feel you don't belong and why?" And I've had my reasons why I don't belong here, because, and I have to tell you, so for some reason, the American culture definitely shows how much um, uh, how disingenuous it can be, and I've always, like I've said earlier, and people think that they have this hoorah mentality, that they're very tough and hot shit because they think that we can start to spread our culture high and wide. And this is something, not everybody does that. While people out there, they enjoy being French, Belgian, Dutch, German, Finnish, Sweden, you name it, and they don't go out with this patriotic macho attitude. And it so much tells us about Americas as a whole. And even though not everyone act this way, but the protectionism and the attitude is really strong over here. And this is just me bringing this out in my own experience, really, and how much of that it can be so pushed into people, especially the religion and politics, all that combined. And that's how I've seen it right there. But either way, I do think it is good to travel, view different options, to view different things as well. Now, if you're a European traveling to the United States and wanting to see something different, this is going to be new for you for sure. This is no question about it. Having to travel to a different life over there and being somewhere that's going to be a lot different, where you've normally grown into your own world, especially. And so to me, that's where I've see in a very different light moving on forward. But with that said, moving out from this point into today's conclusion, and especially with Computex, definitely will continue a lot more on Computex coming in, moving forward in episode 200. And I can believe that I made it to episode 200 despite the loss of audio and the loss of episodes that's been lost throughout the transfer. I will say that this has been a very good ride, 200 episodes. I can't wait to get myself out there a lot more. And anyways, this is, like I said, a very much of a different episode compared to the rest. But if you want to hear more, follow up on my Substack and follow up on the podcast. I am not just in Substack. You can follow me on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube Music. By the way, if anyone subscribes to me on Google Podcasts, Google no longer has their own podcast. So if you want to follow me, you have to go through YouTube Music, or just type in the podcast through Leon LeGray podcast through YouTube search, and my podcast will appear from that point. And so yeah, and again, you can look me up on Deezer, Spotify, and many of your podcast platforms of your choice. But with that said, thank you so much for coming in and sticking around. I hope you enjoy episode 199 of today. Enjoy, take care, have a great rest of your day, or a great rest of your week, whatever time you're listening to me on. Enjoy.